An inspiring veteran janitor at the SEAL gym, discovered the hidden tattoo that changed everything. Jack draped his old janitorial uniform over his weary shoulders as he traversed the empty floor of the SEAL gym. He'd once worn a different uniform, one adorned with stars, stripes, and tales of bravado. Now, the only honor he felt was in caring for his ailing mother, whose health eclipsed his dreams. He'd traded barrels of the ocean for buckets of disinfectant, all to support her. Yet those fleeting moments, when he caught a gym member's nod of appreciation, reminded him of a time when valor meant something. As he swept the floor, Jack's mind swirled. Despite his humble job, those around him often respected him, though respect felt superficial when juxtaposed against their laughter and banter. On occasion, he caught snippets of their conversations about life and ambition, while he remained comfortably tucked into the shadows of anonymity. What would they say if they knew the extent of his past? What could they possibly understand about sacrifice and loyalty? The thought sent tendrils of unease skittering through him. In the midst of his scrubbing, a lively voice broke through. "Hey, is that a tattoo?" Mia, a spirited young athlete, pointed with genuine curiosity at the ink peeking under Jack's sleeve. No one had asked him about the tattoo in years, and the sudden spotlight felt both exhilarating and terrifying. He hesitated, grappling with long-buried memories of brotherhood and survival. She leaned against a wall, her eager expression drawing him in, igniting flickers of old courage. Before he knew it, Jack found himself sharing tales of his time as a SEAL, the exhilarating camaraderie in perilous situations, the unyielding loyalty amid chaos. Each story he unveiled cut deep with nostalgia. Jack shared the moments that solidified his resolve, igniting Mia with ambition. "You should tell everyone what you've done," she urged, a fire gleaming in her youthful eyes. "You could inspire them." But as he stepped into that unknown territory, an unsettling reality loomed. Doubts bubbled beneath the surface, clouding the very dreams he'd spun in silence. Would they ever recognize his worth beyond the janitor's cart? Would they see him as a veteran or merely a man with a mop? The whispers of some gym members formed a weighty fog that pressed on Jack's psyche. The specter of disdain lurked, waiting to rear its head. Jack found news of a scholarship opportunity, a chance to teach, a pathway he'd been too afraid to dare. The glimmer of hope ignited the dormant flame within, forging a way through his doubt. But each time he envisioned the moment he could step beyond the floors he cleaned, voices emerged in protest, poisoned by prejudice. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Standing there, heart racing, Jack sidled closer to the exit. Maybe the gym was right, perhaps he would never be more than a janitor. Just as he contemplated walking away, Mia stepped in front of him, urgency unfolding in her expression. "Please, don't leave. Fight for yourself." Her plea weighed heavily, a stirring contradiction making his insides tremble. If he departed now, it meant surrendering his past, but who would stand and rally for a janitor's voice, unrecognized? The inner turmoil seethed as a familiar, bitter voice echoed in the back of his mind. Would they ever truly accept him? And then came that question from the dimmest corner of the gym, a voice all too commanding, riddled with doubt, begging for him to confront the mettle he feared he lacked. In that moment, Jack gasped for breath, oblivion hanging like a thick fog around him. The realization struck painfully: he could either step forward into the fray or retreat into despair. There, at the threshold of his unspoken fears, where valor collated with prejudice, he stood alone, both a veteran and an unsung hero, both fighting to be seen and wrestling with the weight of who he once was. A wave of uncertainty washed over Jack as he stood frozen, caught in Mia's intense gaze. Her unwavering belief in him sparked something primal, an urge to reclaim his identity lost beneath the weight of years and responsibilities. The echoes of past glories, the laughter of brothers in arms, presented a stark contrast to the isolation he felt now. What if he could reintegrate passion into his present? What if he could be more than a custodian? His heart hammered as he considered the scholarship opportunity, a lifeline that dangled like a bait before an insatiable fisherman. Could he bridge the chasm between his past and his present? The idea was maddeningly intoxicating yet undeniably daunting. For too long, Jack had settled into the comfortable predictability of scrubbing floors and emptying trash cans. Professional ambition was stalled in the vortex of daily survival, but Mia's encouragement took root. "Fight for yourself," she had said. The phrase taunted him, nudging at his insides like an insistent moth drawn to light. A flicker of old resolve kindled within, and Jack realized he needed to confront the shadow of self-doubt head-on. In that moment, a decision crystallized. He would apply for the scholarship, not merely to teach but to reclaim a piece of the man he once was, the mentor, the leader, the soldier. Returning to his tasks with newfound fervor, Jack attacked the rest of his shift with determination. As he swept the floors, he visualized himself standing before a group of eager minds, imparting wisdom gathered from the battlefield and beyond. The thought energized him, pulsing through his veins like adrenaline. However, an undercurrent of fear momentarily dulled the excitement. What if his past was deemed inadequate? What if the tales he carried were merely whispers in the ears of those who lived in the present? With renewed purpose, Jack began working on his application, each word a declaration of intent. He pored over his experiences, articulating not just his achievements but also the lessons learned in adversity, the strength forged in loneliness, and the soft yet resolute heart that beat beneath the exterior. Each keystroke was a battle cry, each paragraph an assertion of his identity, reminding himself, "You are more than a janitor." Days passed, and the camaraderie at the gym subtly shifted. Those once ignorant voices began to quiet as members took notice of Jack's change. They saw him less as the shadow behind the mop and more as an individual marked by experience. An unexpected encounter with another veteran sparked a deep connection, drawing Jack into conversations that elicited stories he had long buried. He found himself in the company of men who understood the weight of preconceptions and the power of resilience. Yet, just as hope soared, anxiety loomed heavier. In moments of solitude, he wrestled with the internal demons whispering doubt. As if to challenge his resolve, a group of younger gym members laughed derisively in the corner, oblivious to the tides of recognition stirring within him. Their remarks, a playful riff on his service, a nod to the janitor he had become, tugged at his insecurities, provoking a flare of indignation. He pondered whether he could face them without losing his ground. The night before submitting his application, a tempest of anxiety took root. Each flicker of doubt became a robust opponent. Was he chasing an illusion, attempting to wear the armor that time had stripped away? Or could he redefine his legacy, breathing life into dreams dimmed by reality? In a calculated moment of raw honesty, he revisited Mia's words. Placing his hand over his tattoo, Jack's breath caught. Perhaps there was strength in vulnerability, and within the unearthing of the past, he found the fortitude to embrace the present. The next day, the moment arrived. Heart racing, he hovered over the submit button. The action felt monumental, signifying not merely a form sent off into the ether but a defining moment, a stand against the tides of resentment, a stand for the soldier that lay dormant, and for his mother's unyielding strength. And then he pressed it, but before the screen could confirm, Mia appeared at his side, concern knitted into her brow. "Are you okay, Jack?" The vulnerability in her voice reached into his confusion, prompting the next step in his journey, one not just about teaching but confronting the very definition of worth. Would he find the courage to narrate his story at the gym's next meeting? How would they receive the veteran he had chosen to embrace anew? The path was fraught with uncertainty, but for the first time, the possibility of recognition flickered before him like a guiding star. Jack sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the screen that had just affirmed his scholarship application. The reality of the moment began to settle in, stirring a mix of exhilaration and dread. He had taken a leap, pressed submit, but the ground beneath him felt unsteady. The silence of the room was deafening, echoing the words he had just let go into the world. What had he done? Mia's question still lingered in his mind. "Are you okay, Jack?" It was more than a simple inquiry, it probed deeper, invading the protective barrier he had carefully built around himself since returning. The hesitance projected in her voice honed in on his raw vulnerability, igniting a fire of introspection that burned fiercely. Determined to confront his fears head-on, he took stock of all he had done over the past few weeks. The application had crystallized a vision for his future, but it was the connections cultivated at the gym that truly shifted his self-perception. Conversations with fellow veterans had opened windows to understanding, revealing not just camaraderie but layers of resilience woven through shared experiences. Yet, that camaraderie was shadowed by doubt. The laughter from the younger members, their mocking acknowledgement of his current station in life as a janitor, was still fresh in his memory. They hadn't seen the soldier, they saw him as a remnant of a past life, one that seemed just as distant as the victories he once shared. Jack grappled with the sting of their dismissive attitudes, familiar yet unforgiving. He arose from the bed and paced his tiny room. What was he afraid of? The judgment? The echo of past failures? Or was it the very act of reclaiming a piece of himself that terrified him most? Jack realized it was more complex than that. It was the fear of having to justify his journey, to prove that he still belonged in spaces often defined by skill and youth. The decision to share his story at the next gym meeting loomed like a looming shadow, equally inviting and intimidating. Could he confront those younger gym members, turn their laughter into the engine for his newfound purpose? The idea captivated him, the thought of flipping the script, not just for himself but for anyone who felt their story was unworthy. He reached for the journal he kept on his nightstand, a collection of unfiltered thoughts and reflections. The pages held fragments of memory and hope, raw sketches of a life once vibrant. Jack started writing without a clear direction, letting words spill freely. He scribbled about the highs and lows of his military service, touching on the bonds he had forged and the scars he bore. His hand paused over a phrase, "Fighting for your worth does not diminish the battles lost." This insight surged through him, invigorating his resolve. There was undeniable power in vulnerability. If he shared his journey, perhaps he could redefine what it meant to be a veteran and a mentor. With each subsequent line, his fears were confronted and dissected. He realized that every challenge faced, every dismissive laughter hurled his way, could become a stepping stone toward empowerment. The journey was not only his to navigate, it was a collective experience, a testament to resilience. As he wrapped up his writing, he felt a sense of clarity take root within. The clock was ticking, the gym meeting was approaching. Jack couldn't afford to treat it as an obligation, it had to be a moment of transformation. He would step into the gym not just as a janitor or a former soldier but as a man ready to share a story that mattered. But the finality of sharing loomed large. He could almost feel the collective gaze weighing on him like an unyielding pressure. What if the laughter came again? What if he stumbled over his words? Before he could dwell further, he snapped the journal shut. The seasoned truth echoed in his mind: sometimes, the path to strength lies in the courage to unveil one's vulnerabilities. Resolved to take a decisive step, Jack made his way to the gym, his heart thundering against his chest, each beat a silent rallying cry. For courage. As he neared the entrance, he felt an electrifying weight settle. The moment had come. Would he find the strength to advocate for his worth or retreat back into the shadows? Each step brought him closer to the truth he was meant to share, and with it came the realization that he was possibly about to confront the very audience that could either mentor him or challenge him in unimaginable ways. Walking into the gym, Jack's senses were overwhelmed: the scent of sweat, the rhythmic thud of weights being dropped, the sharp contrast of youthful energy against the weight of his uncertainties. Each noisy laugh felt like a reminder of what could be lost or gained, leaving him teetering on an invisible line. He fought to channel that energy, to transform anxiety into something tangible. The gym wasn't just an environment, it was a battlefield where Jack faced not only the echoes of his past but also the possibility of a renewed identity. As he approached the group gathered for the meeting, he could feel his heart slamming against his ribs. He doubted anyone noticed the storm brewing inside him. They were caught up in their own camaraderie, the banter, a language he felt distanced from. "Hey, Jack," a voice called out, snapping him from his thoughts. It was Sam, one of the younger gym members. There was a casual ease in Sam's smile, an openness that Jack had never received from others, but the question hung in the air: did they truly see him? Did they feel the weight of his history, or was he just a backdrop to their stories? Jack offered a hesitant smile in return, then took a seat at the edge of the circle. Conversations buzzed around him, the topics flitting from workout achievements to the latest training techniques. As he interjected with the occasional comment, he felt like an outsider peering into a world that didn't recognize his place. It was time. Anxiety bubbled within him. He wanted to stand and speak, to silence the doubts flitting through his mind. Could they perceive his hesitation? Instead, he focused on the beats of his heart, aligning them with the cadence of the voices surrounding him. "All right, everyone. We're going to hear from Jack today. He's got some things to share," the gym manager said, nodding at him. The room dimmed, and conversations faded. A spotlight felt as if it shone directly on him, amplifying his insecurities. Taking a deep breath, Jack rose, the air thickening with expectation. His fingers gripped the journal he had brought along. This wasn't merely a collection of thoughts, it was a testament to how far he had come and how far he still needed to go. I might not be what you expect," he started, his voice shaky but gradually gaining strength. "I'm not here to relive the past or pull everyone into that chapter of my life." He hesitated, memories flooding back, the camaraderie of soldiers and the abrupt severing of bonds when he returned home. "But I want to share something that isn't just about me, it's about us, about fighting through the judgment and finding worth in unexpected places." His confidence remained perilously intertwined with vulnerability. He felt liberation creeping in, fueled by the realization that every word written in his journal was not merely intended for him, it was crafted to resonate with anyone who had ever felt diminished or unseen. With each sentence that followed, Jack unveiled not only his fears and failures but the gradual emergence of hope. "Fighting for your worth does not diminish the battles lost," he reiterated, making eye contact with those who had once laughed dismissively. "I learned that worth doesn't depend on victories alone, but also on the scars we carry and the journeys we embrace." Their faces shifted subtly, portraying confusion, curiosity, and eventually respect. The laughter hung in the air, but it transformed. The laughter was no longer mocking, it became a shared understanding, an acknowledgement of the struggles that tied them together in their humanity. As he closed, the weight of what he had shared, his journey, his scars, felt lighter, but uncertainty still lurked in his mind. Would this shift perceptions? Would they take him seriously after hearing his truth? The room remained silent until a round of timid applause broke the stillness. Silence transformed into murmurs filled with acknowledgement and questions. Jack stepped back, realizing he had crossed a threshold he thought was insurmountable. Yet, as the applause faded, he felt the creeping challenges ahead, a decision to deepen these conversations and address the real fears they carried. Jack knew he must navigate this new territory with care. What questions would arise next? What hesitations would still linger? Would he be able to redefine what it meant to share and to connect? He looked around at the faces before him, each one a reflection of their individual stories waiting to be shared. "I want to open this up," he declared, heart pounding. "What's your story?" The stakes were now higher than before. It was not just about his personal evolution, it had the potential to spark a significant shift in the narrative. But little did he know that confronting the layers of their experiences would expose even deeper vulnerabilities than he had ever imagined. The atmosphere in the gym shifted palpably as Jack's invitation hung in the air, much like the weight of the dumbbells scattered around. Anticipation rippled through the group, their eyes darting between him and each other, seeking connections that had previously eluded them. It was an unspoken challenge, a collective moment hovering on the precipice of vulnerability. "Well, I guess I can start," Sam spoke up, breaking the silence. The young member leaned forward, his voice gaining steadiness. "I used to be terrified of being in front of people. My dad was in the military, and I always felt I had to live up to that image. It wasn't until I realized that I didn't need to be perfect, just myself, that I made progress." Jack felt a rush of recognition. Sam's words echoed his own struggles of masks, of expectations, and the freeing reality that authenticity often trumps perceived perfection. The gym, previously a place of physical exertion, transformed into a sanctuary where personal sagas could unwinding like tightly coiled springs. As each member took their turn, sharing snippets of their battles with self-doubt, anxiety, and fear, Jack's heart swelled with affirmation. He learned of Sarah, a single mother striving to reclaim her strength after decades of feeling invisible, and Malik, who had fought his own demons of depression with each drop of sweat. They were all warriors in their own right, each revealing scars laid bare, and with each story, Jack felt the boundaries of his own experiences softening. As silence fell after a particularly poignant sharing, he leaned into the vulnerability they had collectively created. "You know," Jack interjected, "we often carry burdens alone, as if doing so makes us stronger. But maybe it's in sharing these weights that we truly find strength." The room, once filled with echoes of laughter, now resonated with the sound of shared healing. But there was an unease lurking beneath the surface, a hesitant tension that crept into Jack's mind. Were they willing to engage further? To delve deeper? The initial support felt palpable, yet he couldn't shake the thought that vulnerability can also elicit judgment. A hand rose timidly. It was Malik, shifting uneasily. "Jack, you've shared a lot about your journey, but how do you keep going? When you feel like you've hit rock bottom, what drives you?" His straightforward question hammered into Jack's chest. It wasn't just a matter of sharing anymore, it was about confronting the raw truth of his ongoing struggle. Jack hadn't fully articulated this aspect to himself yet. How did he keep fighting? What was the driving force behind the determination to transform pain into purpose? Jack's gaze shifted as he searched for an answer, unsettled by the weight of that inquiry. He recalled those dark nights, the moments alone with his thoughts, the tattoos on his skin that narrated stories he had yet to fully embrace. They had been a testament of survival born out of his past, but how could he translate that survival into motivation for himself and others? "I guess I let my scars remind me of where I've been," he finally replied, feeling the truth solidify in his gut. "Every tattoo I carry tells a story of my fight. They remind me that I survived my battles and can face new ones. Sharing my journey isn't just freeing for me, it's a call for all of us to lean on each other and redefine our purposes moving forward." Nods and murmurs of agreement floated around the room, yet Jack felt an undeniable knot tighten within him. He had opened a door, but now he faced whether he could walk through it fully. They gathered in silence, and from that stillness emerged a profound urge to probe deeper, to grip the challenges that lay hidden beneath their bravado. Jack sensed a shift in the momentum, the gravity of their experiences inviting even more honesty. "Next time, let us talk about fear," Jack proposed, wresting control of the conversation. "What scares you the most? Let us face it together." As he watched the eyes of the group widen with both apprehension and curiosity, he couldn't help but ponder the consequences. Had he unleashed a wave of introspection that could either liberate or drown them all in waves of emotion? The uncharted territory loomed ahead, thicker with tension than before, promising revelations that would challenge not just their perceptions of one another but also their very identities. Could they abandon the anxieties that tethered them and embrace the courage their stories warranted? Jack's heart thudded with the uncertainty of what lay ahead. He felt the energy shift again, the air crackling with anticipation. The next chapter of their shared healing was about to begin, but would they be ready to uncover the hearts concealed beneath their fears? The next session arrived with an electricity that thrummed in Jack's veins. He entered the gym, the familiar scent of rubber mats and iron mingling with the crispness of the air. It felt like a battlefield, each corner echoing with stories waiting to be acknowledged. Yet today, he was acutely aware of the weight on his shoulders. He had positioned himself as the catalyst for transformation. As the group assembled, a mix of anticipation and nerve simmered between them. Jack could sense it. There was an unspoken agreement that their exploration into fear would be transcendent but challenging. How much were they each willing to unearth? "All right, let us dig in," he began, his voice steady despite the flickering doubt dancing in his mind. "What scares you the most? Let us take turns and break it down together." His words sparked an almost tangible charge in the room. It felt like they were standing at the precipice of a deep chasm, the light on the other side barely visible. Sam spoke first, his voice trembling slightly. "For me, it's the fear of rejection. I worry that if I put myself out there, no one will want to connect with me." Jack's heart went out to him. They were so alike in their struggle. The fear of inadequacy often loomed large, shaping perspectives and distorting reality. When Sarah shared her anxiety of being judged by others as a single mother, Jack felt the stirrings of his own insecurities rise to the surface. "I get that," he chimed in, thinking back to his own experiences of failure, both personal and professional. "I've battled the idea of not fitting in for years." As the conversation began to flow, Malik's voice cut through the tension like a knife. "Honestly, I'm most afraid of never feeling whole again. The emptiness is terrifying." His admission landed heavily, reverberating through Jack. This wasn't just about gym workouts, it was a revelation hidden beneath layers of vulnerability. Jack felt his own walls start to crumble. The stories shared were forging connections he hadn't anticipated, yet the fear gnawed at him. Would he reveal his own demons? The heavy burden he carried from past failures and self-doubt pulsed at the forefront of his mind. The tattoos on his arms seemed to burn. Their ink signified both his history and the fear of confronting it. "I think," he hesitated, swallowing hard, "I think my biggest fear is being seen for who I really am and not being enough." As those words slipped through his lips, he felt an intense wave of both liberation and dread wash over him. The observant gazes of the group felt as if they were peeling layers off him, exposing raw emotions he had fought to keep buried. Malik leaned in. "But you're here, Jack. That counts for something." Taking a deep breath, Jack considered how far he'd come. His journey wasn't just marked by scars, it was about progress, each step recalibrating his path toward purpose. Sharing this intimate revelation began a cascade of internal questioning. What if authenticity could serve as his armor instead of vulnerability? What if he could inspire others to confront the echoes of their fears as he had? As others continued to share, Jack seized the moment to weave in his experiences more openly. Each story of bravery fueled him. The truth became clearer, it was a shared vulnerability that fueled their growth, creating ripples of hope that spread out into their everyday lives. The discussion circled back, and a sense of unity began to emerge, although laced with hesitance. There were still voices within that trembled at the prospect of full honesty, afraid of what confronting their deepest fears might reveal. "Next time," Jack said, locking eyes with each member, "let us share what makes us feel whole. What brings us joy? What do we want to fight for?" The challenge hung in the air, heavier than before but charged with potential. Jack could feel the momentum building, laden with uncharted territories of self-discovery. He had opened yet another door, but now he had to consider the risks. Would they embrace the journey together, or would some pull back into the safety of silence? As the group contemplated his proposal, Jack's heart raced, and the shadows of doubt hovered just beyond the threshold. Would they soar together toward healing, or would fear tether them to their old selves? The next week loomed on the horizon, vast with uncertainty and possibility, an exhilarating dance with destiny waiting to unfold. The day of reckoning dawned with an uncharacteristic stillness enveloping Jack. The morning light streamed through the gym windows, illuminating dust motes that hung in the air like suspended moments in time. Today, he had directed his group toward uncharted territories, and as he prepared, the weight of anticipation pressed against him, thick and suffocating. Jack arranged the equipment, moving with a rhythm that barely masked the storm of thoughts whirling within. The challenge he had laid before the group clashed with the quiet consternation in his mind. What were they each capable of revealing? What truths would be laid bare beneath the weight of vulnerability? He had nursed his own wounds long enough, yet the prospect of deeper exposure twisted nervously in his gut. As the group filed in, their faces reflected a cocktail of excitement and trepidation. Jack caught glimpses of Sarah's hesitant smile and Malik's focused gaze, each providing a silent affirmation of trust he desperately wanted to uphold. Yet, beneath the surface, Jack felt the shadows of doubt rear their heads anew. What if his leadership faltered when they needed him most? "Welcome back, everyone," he said, projecting confidence while grappling with the undercurrent of fear that surged through him. "Let us unpack what brings us joy today, contrasting it with what holds us back." A palpable energy rippled through them. Sharing moments of joy was pivotal, it could shatter the cages they had built around their fears. Taking a deep breath, he steeled himself. "Who wants to go first?" It was Sam again, his anxiety mingling with eagerness. "I find joy in painting," he said, a spark igniting in his eyes. "Creating something from nothing makes me feel alive." The others nodded, drawn in by his passion. Jack smiled, encouraged by Sam's openness. Hearing this, he thought about what filled his spirit. The gym, the physicality of it, had always been more than just a place to train. It had been a sanctuary, a domain where he fought through self-doubt with every drop of sweat. Yet, it was time to dig deeper. "What about you, Malik? How do you feel whole?" Malik shifted, his brow furrowing. "I feel whole when I'm helping others," he said slowly. "But sometimes it feels like I'm just running on empty." The leap into honesty struck a chord within Jack, compelling him to push past his own apprehensions. As each person contributed, Jack felt empowered and terrified in equal measures. The exchanges were profoundly personal, threads of connection weaving tighter amongst them, but fear lurked behind each revelation, the fear of inadequacy, of vulnerability, of not being enough. "What if," Jack proposed, "we create something tangible out of today's revelations, something we can return to when doubt creeps in?" He suggested a collective art piece that represented their shared exploration, something they would each contribute to. With that, Jack felt a spark of rebellion ignite inside him against the restrictive nature of his own fears. Could painting over canvases together be a metaphorical reclaiming of their lives? The group responded with enthusiasm, their eyes gleaming with the promise of creation. But the act of guiding them ignited an urgent question in Jack's mind: what would he contribute to this collective work? He recalled the tattoos inked on his skin, each marked a chapter in his life, both the struggles and the resilience they embodied. What if he unveiled the hidden story behind one of those tattoos as a commitment to authenticity? Would such vulnerability lead them all into a deeper understanding of their own narratives, or would it instead amplify his insecurities? With pounding heart and wavering resolve, Jack realized that the next step he would take, adding a new layer to the canvas by revealing his truth, would be an act of courage not just for him but for everyone gathered. They were all on a precipice, poised to either leap into the unknown or retreat into the shadows. As the day wound down and excitement filled the air, he found the courage to embrace his hidden fears. Jack knew the moment was ripe. The weight of his hidden story loomed large, casting long shadows on the path ahead. The real question became increasingly clear: what if the exploration of his truth led to both freedom for himself and a profound breakthrough for the group? The moment drew near, and Jack felt the eyes of everyone upon him. Would he step forward and brave the risk of revealing the ink that told the unvarnished truth of who he was? The upcoming revelation loomed significant, and the stakes had never been higher. Jack stood before his group, the vibrations of the world around him fading as adrenaline surged through his veins. This moment, laden with the weight of vulnerability, felt monumental, yet familiar like a long-forgotten dream. The collective anticipation in the room was palpable, each gaze a silent prodding, coaxing him forward. As he looked at the eager faces, he felt their eagerness mingle with his lingering doubts. Would revealing the story behind his tattoo the tale of pain, struggle, and ultimately, triumph contribute to their healing? Or would it expose another layer of inadequacy in his own narrative? The ink on his skin wasn't just ink, it was a map of his journey, a journey marked by combat, loss, and rebirth. The tattoo, a jagged line of a sword intertwined with a broken chain, had been etched into his flesh during a time when he was stripping away the rusted layers of his past. It symbolized the fight he waged against his own demons, the battle to reclaim his identity after serving in the SEALs. Could he truly lay bare the burden of that history, the guilt of survival, and the scars of his service? Drawing a deep breath, he began, his voice slightly trembling yet steady enough to carry the weight of his truth. I want to share what this, he traced a finger over the tattoo's contours, means to me. The air grew still, wrapping them in an embrace of expectation. Jack recounted how the tattoo represented not just victory over external enemies but his inner struggles, the profound emptiness that accompanied returning home, the echoes of the past that haunted his every waking moment. Each word formed a bridge built on honesty, spanning the divide between them. Bit by bit, he felt the fear recede, inching back as he let the warmth of courage fill the space where doubt had lingered. With every revelation, he could see the group shifting, their bodies leaning in, hangers-on to his story as if it were a lifeline. They, too, were wrestling depths of their own hurt, the fear of being inadequate, the belief that they weren't enough to face the world as it came. In baring his soul, he saw not only liberation for himself but an invitation for each of them to emerge from their own shadows. Jack noticed Sarah's eyes watering, Malik's clenched fists loosening. The power of shared vulnerability transformed from a concept into reality. Mutual understanding wove threads of strength among them. One by one, they began opening up, not with the hesitance that had guided them earlier but with an uncharacteristic honesty that ignited the room's potential. As they shared, Jack felt a new determination take root, a recognition of his own value not linked solely to service or past glories, but grounded in their collective experience. His vulnerability had become a mirror, encouraging the rest to reflect on their own hidden stories, revealing talents and potential they had long kept dormant. Yet, amid the triumph of connection, a lingering thought fluttered in the back of his mind. While he had shared this piece of himself, was there more to uncover? Were there layers of shame and regret yet to peel away? He felt the faint stir of fear, a reminder that growth often required the excavation of deeper truths. With the newfound bond they forged in the heat of vulnerability, he realized it was not just about revealing oneself but about the journey together into unknown territories of healing. Would he have the courage to embark on this next phase? The group buzzed with energy, a tapestry of shared emotion rich with texture and color. Jack knew they could create something beautiful that day, something that would carry their stories beyond the walls of the gym. As the conversation flowed, a sudden thought struck him like a bolt of lightning. What if we not only create art that speaks to our journey but utilize our unique gifts to express what we've learned? Each of us, in our way, can contribute something that represents transformation. Would the act of each individual expressing their hidden skills spark further insight? With renewed resolve glimmering in his chest, Jack felt a pull toward something even greater than himself, a collective quest for authenticity. What awaited them on this newly illuminated path, and how would they navigate the uncharted waters ahead? As the conversations pulsated with newfound energy, Jack felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The idea of creating art together illuminated a pathway that had long seemed obscured in his mind. He knew their shared experiences were fertile ground for creativity, but the logistics of it all weighed heavily on him. How could he successfully guide their transformation from raw emotion to tangible expression? Determined to channel his uncertainties into action, Jack signaled for the group's attention. The buzz quieted into a hush, anticipation hanging in the air again. How about we brainstorm what art means to each of us? Let us explore our unique skills and what we can contribute. The suggestion sparked a ripple of ideas, banishing any residual doubt. Each voice built off the others, layering insight upon insight. Sarah mentioned her love for painting landscapes, how the colors could reflect emotions, capturing joy and sorrow alike. Malik, who had spent years honing his carpentry skills, spoke of creating a piece symbolizing overcoming barriers, perhaps a sculpture with chains being shattered. The sheer enthusiasm ignited something within Jack. They were not just unraveling their pasts but crafting a shared future. As he listened, Jack's mind darted back to the tattoo that had catalyzed this moment. He envisioned how each person's contribution could intertwine, much like the elements of his design. It wasn't enough just for him to lead. He realized the success of their venture hinged on allowing everyone's individual story to surface. They were more than mere participants, they needed to become integral artists of their narrative. A thought flickered at the edge of Jack's consciousness. He had spoken of vulnerability, but had he fully embraced it himself? His experience in the SEALs had taught him strength and resilience, but here he was, unearthed and raw. Pushing back against the inclination to shield his vulnerabilities, he took a step forward. I want to share another part of this journey, what led to this tattoo's design. The room grew quieter, a focus now fixed solely on him again. He spoke of the hours he spent in a tattoo parlor, grappling with remorse about what he had survived while others hadn't. That sword signifies battle, he admitted. But the broken chains need to resonate too. They symbolize the oppression I felt, the expectations, the pain, and above all, the fear of being seen as less than whole. Each word fell like fresh rainfall on parched earth, nourishing the budding connection among them. Returning from the whisper of his past, Jack found solace in the reactions around him. Once more, faces softened, eyes widened with understanding. This juxtaposition of sharing and creating their own art suddenly fortified his resolve. Perhaps he could cultivate an environment where wounds became paintbrushes, where histories fused into beautiful expressions of hope. Yet, as they continued to brainstorm, a nagging thought crawled into Jack's mind. Would facing these collective truths uncover more pain? The tapestry they were beginning to weave could just as easily unveil complicated emotions buried deep, either sidelining their progress or negatively straining their fragile bond. With the ideas flowing through the room, Jack noticed people leaning closer, engaged in a private storm of thought, making visible the wrestle of emotions that lingered in the air. That urge to face discomfort became a palpable entity, beckoning him forth. Surely, confronting deeper emotions would offer an elixir to what they sought. Transformation lay just beyond the shadows. As conversations buzzed energetically, he leaned closer to Sarah and Malik, inviting them into the heart of his realization. Do you think diving deeper into the feelings around our art will help us shape what we want to create? It could reveal those hidden layers. Would they be willing to face not only their strengths but their ghosts? Could they collectively unearth deeper antagonisms, the fear of vulnerability that could undermine their shared quest for authenticity? Jack felt the stirrings of apprehension bloom within him as the discussion continued. He knew each step taken into that unknown terrain would carry risks. But in the midst of fear, something else brewed, a glimmer of anticipation for what lay ahead, a surge of transformative potential waiting to be unlocked. Jack stood at the appointed spot in the gym, charged with anticipation. As he faced the group, he felt the quiet energy of the space shift, reflecting the journey they had undertaken together. The vulnerability they had shared in their recent sessions had ignited a spark, and now it was time to manifest that spark into something tangible. Today's the day, he declared, his voice steady yet laced with excitement. We'll take the ideas we've generated and begin to unfold our art. This isn't just a project, it's an expression of who we are, where we've been, and where we're going. With each word, he could feel the collective tension transform into an exhilarating sense of purpose. Each member of the group had become more than just faces in the gym, they were architects of their stories, ready to create a symphony of resilience. Jack guided them to different sections of the gym, where materials and tools awaited their creativity. Paints, canvases, and sculptures filled the space, symbols of the dreams they were ready to express. As they took their places, Jack encouraged each of them to share their vision one last time before diving in. Sarah picked up a brush and began discussing how vibrant colors could represent their journeys, combining elements from each story into unified landscapes. "It's like our lives," she explained, enthusiasm bubbling over. "We might each have our own colors, but when blended, they create something beautiful." Malik's hands moved eagerly as he sketched out designs for his sculpture. "What if I made it interactive? A piece that invites people to break the chains? We can make it physically accessible, challenge them to step through as they confront their own barriers." The excitement in the gym transformed into a rhythmic collaborative buzz, as ideas merged and designs soared. Jack felt a gaping void of doubt close, replaced by the steady cadence of shared determination. Yet, amidst the creativity blooming, Jack sensed the lingering shadows. Those lingering fears, fear of inadequacy, fear of failure, fear of vulnerability loomed like dark clouds above the bright possibilities they were crafting. Seeing the shifting energy caused an insistent reminder within him. Just as the group had opened up their hearts, he realized he needed to further embrace his authentic self. "Before we start creating, I want to offer one more piece of my story," Jack said, taking a deep breath. He shared how the broken chains of his tattoo weren't merely tokens of battle, they also encapsulated the fear of letting go. Breaking free doesn't mean forgetting. It means recognizing where we've been and realizing that moving forward doesn't erase our past. It defines how we choose to paint our future. His words resonated deeply with the group, faces exhibiting the line where discomfort met understanding. Jack could see them processing his truth, relating it back to their fears and aspirations. As comic cracks began forming in the facade of their worries, Jack felt the shift toward a renewed commitment. They were more than just bystanders in their lives, they were co-creators. "Let us immerse ourselves into this process," he urged, gesturing toward the vibrant materials and canvases that now stood as blank slates filled with potential. "Each brush stroke, every piece we remove or add, becomes a celebration of our evolution." They approached the materials with resolute purpose. Artists in their own right, they lifted paintbrushes and tools as symbols of liberation. Merging laughter with paint-splattered hands, they shared memories, critiques, and insights. They acknowledged moments of doubt but continually countered them with stories of resilience, forming bonds that reaffirmed their promise to each other. As the hours unfolded, the art took shape. Canvases shimmered with vibrant strokes while Malik's sculpture began to emerge, representing transformation. It was beautiful and chaotic, a fitting reflection of their journeys. In witnessing the art manifest around him, Jack understood that this collaborative effort signified more than individual accomplishments, it was a testament to the healing power of authenticity. Finally, as the session drew to a close and the gym became a canvas of their collective experiences, Jack stepped back. Each figure, each hue represented not just their struggles but also their triumphs. They had embraced the weight of their fears and woven them into something extraordinary, a collective representation of vulnerability and strength, a reflection of their interconnected journeys. A tremendous sense of fulfillment surged within him. The journey had transformed Jack from a janitor hiding behind a mop into a respected figure, valiant championing the voices around him. The time had come for Jack to speak again. "This what we've made here, it's not just art, it's a celebration of fighting for our worth. Each of us played a vital role in this. It signifies that amidst our challenges, we rise together." With those words echoing in the air, Jack felt the last remnants of doubt dissolve away, replaced by solid confidence. He had achieved something profound, the ability to inspire change not just within himself but within everyone around him. They would carry this experience beyond the walls of the gym, transcending the limitations that had once confined them. As they gathered to appreciate the resulting art, Jack knew that this was just the beginning. This was a commemoration of their journeys and a commitment to continue seeking authenticity. He stood among them as an embodiment of transformation, confident and fulfilled, a testament to the strength they all held within. If you resonated with Jack's powerful journey, you need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss out on the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our community. Comment your reactions and theories about this incredible conclusion. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this inspiring story of personal overcoming. Don't wait even one more second to share.